even though Wolverine's on the cover, it's not a Wolverine story. It's more about Kitty Pryde, and Kitty Pryde being the center of most of the story. Even though, of course, it's a teen book, so everyone gets a part in this story. It's also about Storm's her first mission as a leader of the X-Men, and it's also Mystique, who is a Captain Marvel villain, comes in, and she's the catalyst that causes this apocalyptic future where everything is destroyed. Now, the book starts off, Kitty Pryde's in a bad way. She gets attacked by rogues. She's saved by Wolverine, but he can't use his claws, or else the Sentinels, who are in this other book, or rather this other cover, is going to come and, they'll realize he's here, and then they'll try to track him down. So, that said, the X-Men in the future, the world is a total mess. This the first time the X-Men have actually worked in the concentration camps into the X-Men story. So the X-Men, everyone talks about it being about civil rights, but there's a lot of hints that are connected to Hitler and FDR. Professor Xavier being in a wheelchair like FDR, Magneto saying that mutants are the master race, the Homo superior. You have, Hitler, who believed in the master race, the Aryans, all that stuff. But this is the first time we got something where we saw, like, Marvel got its own concentration camp for mutants, where a lot of mutants and superheroes died and were killed. And that is the open of the story, where we see everything terrible. We see Kitty Pryde, who is mostly, for us kids, we connected with, like, her first joining the X-Men, and now we see her, and it's at the end of her journey, possibly the end of her journey. She's traveling, there's like a horse-drawn bus. It's as a kid, it was just like, wow, buying off the stands. It's just crazy. So, looking at that, at this point, they run into the X-Men. It's like Storm is still around, Colossus is still around. There's also Franklin, who's the son of Reed Richards and Sue Richards. And there's Rachel, who's also a telepath. And it is an oddity that Magneto is the leader, but it also tells you that these Sentinels not only took out all the heroes, they crippled, the Master of Metal, and the Master of Magnetism, Magneto. So that shows these guys are beyond what we've ever seen before. They're not anything like what it is. Now, there's bits of this story that I believe John Byrne talked about were, since he was a fan of Doctor Who and the Day of the Daleks, the Daleks episode, he sort of worked its way into the story. So, because there's an assassination plot, there's also assassination plot in the Day of the Daleks. There's also, they're actually time travelers in the story and people in the loop. In the Days of Future Past, the telepath has the idea to try to send Kitty's psyche into the past, and she has none of the psychic protection at that point in her life. So it's a little different in that way. And then at the same time, what's the other bit that they have? That obviously the Daleks have controlled everything, and they're these mean, nasty, terrible things. But there's a lot of time travel in the actual Doctor Who episode. One of the key bits is the future, and of course the assassination, and that's where we get into when Kitty goes back in time. And when we meet the X-Men, we meet the regular X-Men. They're in a training exercise. They're in the danger room. Now this is rare because I think out of the 36 issues that Chris Claremont and John Byrne did together, there's only a total of 6 danger room scenes, and for me, those are some of my favorite scenes. And also an intro to people who haven't read the book. You get to meet all the characters, and if you've been following the story, Angel is now up to speed. He's working well in the danger room with the other X-Men. So Kitty Pryde walks in there, and there's a splash shot where you see Kitty, and she's the center of the page. Even though a lot of stuff is going through all the other characters, Kitty comes in. There's a little bit of peril there. John Byrne and Chris Claremont, they weren't necessarily big fans of the Danger Room, but I always was. But anyway, that said, if you go to this point, she goes to an exercise, and in this exercise she falls out after she completes it, and the X-Men go to save her, and they take her to to their sort of infirmary. When they get there, she wakes up. She's totally different. She's reacting to Nightcrawler as if she's comfortable with him, but as a kid, she was never necessarily comfortable with Nightcrawler. But she's saying she's Kitty from the future, and this Kitty from the future tells of all this horror that the Senator Robert Kelly was having these hearings about mutants and the Mutant Registration Act. He's like going to be killed, possibly by evil mutant, and that causes this apocalyptic future that that is on the brink of destruction, because the Sentinels are now trying to move from the United States to Russia, and Russia will then send their nuclear missiles, and everything goes to pot. So this is their last ditch effort to save everything. In the Daleks, they're caught in a time loop. They're not sure, and Doctor Who actually points out, you're not sure if you created it or not. This X-Men thing is a one-time thing. They're trying to, wipe out that future. So at this point, they go to the Senate hearings. At the Senate hearings, they see Professor Xavier, and they see Byrne McTaggart, who's a Nobel Peace Prize. Professor Xavier is one of the leads in the fields of genetics. The world doesn't know that they're connected to the X-Men. So this hearing's going on. The X-Men show up. They inform, mentally informed. Professor Xavier's what's going on. And as Robert Kelly is getting very heavy. Now, just a quick intro. He was introduced early in the Hellfire Club. He had a bit scene where he basically reacts to Wolverine attacking one of the Hellfire Club. Despite what Miss Mastermind did, Wolverine actually attacked one of the, it's in defense, but at the same time, Robert Kelly doesn't know that that Wolverine is a hero, and the Hellfire Club are villains. So he saw this mutant attacking a human. For what reasons, he did not know. So this is where the mutant hysteria is stemming from, Wolverine's action, and that's why he's taking action. So he's not necessarily in the wrong. And in this story, not like later stories, Robert Kelly kind of is on the fence, but he's more leaning towards being against mutants because of this reason, without stating it, because you just have to know, you have to read all the story, but he's not necessarily pointed out bad in this story. Mystique in the new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, they come down, it's Mystique, they have Destiny who can read the future, they have the Blob, a classic Brotherhood of Evil Mutant character, Pyro and Avalanche. So they're obviously one deal with rock, one will deal with fire. They come, they're ready to kill, they say they're going to kill Robert Kelly, and the X-Men show up. So at this point, there's some of the best splash pages that I've always loved as a kid. It has Angel in it, obviously Wolverine, Colossus, Storm. Kitty Pryde is now looking like a character of action, even though she's a very small girl at this point. And the X-Men show up, but the police and the authorities, they're just like, all the mutants are bad. So it's a very interesting thing of really showing you the feared and hated by the world they're sworn to protect. This really brings the whole X-Men story into play. Not X-Men in space, not, whatever it might be, the X-Men in Japan and that sort of thing. This is them feared and hated by the world they're sworn to protect. So once you get to that point, there's this big fight going on, but there's two stories. And in the second issue, X-Men 142, they're constantly showing you shots where Kitty's in the center, but a lot of other stuff's going on. So Byrne keeps reminding you that this is sort of Kitty sort of thing. And at the same time, Storm is struggling with being a new leader of the team. And then at the same time, you have the future where the X-Men, the future X-Men are still trying to stop the Sentinels from creating this World War III. So, and they don't know that it's going to be wiped out. So the timing of it, when it gets wiped out or whatever, they're going through it. So it's almost like simultaneously these two things are happening. So when we get to the point of the fight, everything's happening. It's a, it's a mess. The X-Men are getting hit by the authorities at the same time. And Storm says Cyclops would have done better, but he's not here. Wolverine gets injured, and it's one of the other point in this issue, he gets injured twice. He gets burned, and he's hurt for a long period of time. He doesn't immediately heal. His senses are messed up, and that gives you a really good bit that Byrne was sort of pushing. You don't really see them pushing Wolverine being killed or possibly getting killed until maybe you could try to say the Brood saga, but Wolverine survived that, and then he just, he had some sort of scars. And then later when you had the X-Men in Australia where he's sort of tortured for days and days. Where this one, he gets burned, he's in bad shape. Alright? Nightcrawler has a fight with Mystique. We get a hint that they may have a connection. There's a lot of things going on in this issue. And at the same time, the future X-Men, they've already lost Franklin. They're going about their business. They go to the Baxter building. These Sentinels are a lot bigger and a lot tougher to take out. The X-Men have to work together to take out them one at a time. But if they met in mass, they might be overtaken. But Colossus luckily drops a couple buildings on them. They're okay. So as you go on, they get to the Baxter building. They're trying to sneak up on the Sentinels, and we lose Wolverine. Colossus, reacts when we lose Storm. We lose here we about Colossus. The only one left is knocked out Kitty in the future, and Rachel. So then the X-Men, they slowly start to take over the evil mutants, but at the same time, there's another problem. The other problem is that Mystique has just taken out two of the major figures that died that caused this future to happen. She's taken out Professor Xavier. She's also taken out Moira McTaggart. So at this point, they're like, well, the X-Men are here. Let's not kill them unless we might need hostages. So they're knocked down off to the side. And that's another key point, is that Xavier really isn't a person in the field. He's more a supporting character. That's why he's sort of taken out of the action anytime. He's not like the cartoon. He's very much not in the action, only in extreme times like when the Phoenix happened and stuff like that. But most of the time he's not involved in the action, or they get him out the action. So at that, once the X-Men finally get, they're taking out most of them. There's only one person left, which is Destiny, who can see the future. She's got Robert Kelly at the crossbow. She got him behind a crossbow, ready to kill him, and she can see the future. So there's no move he can make that she can't kill him. But Destiny has mentioned that there's something that she can't see, and since Kitty has her psyche has traveled into the past, this caused a temporal blocking that masks her from Destiny seeing her. So this gives you a good bit, but is it totally working? So then Kitty jumps through Destiny, and this causes her to shift her. This thing that she can't see just goes through her, and it causes her to shift her crossbow. It's clear in the pictures, but there's something added that Kitty also pushed with the crossbow with her arm, and it misses Robert Kelly. Robert Kelly is being man of the hero. Who is this girl? Who are you? This, that, and the other. And Storm sort of says some stern stuff, takes Kitty out, and basically they save the day. They leave an Angel's plane, and they're like, what, did we actually save the day? At this point in the story, one of the things that Byrne had issue with was that they were supposed to sort of tell us that the other future was canceled out, since they went back in time and they cut that. They were supposed to be cut off because they didn't die, and we're off to a new future. But not meaning a future without Sentinels, because the page after, Henry Glyric and also Sebastian Shaw are in the talks, and they're talking about things, and they need a response, which are Sentinels. So that makes it even darker that the X-Men haven't, reading it the way it is, it's like, oh, the X-Men didn't save anything. We're going to get this dark future that we thought was cool. So I just wanted to put out something to sort of say, if you understand what the X-Men are feared and hated by the world they're sworn to protect. That's the tagline that was in the book all the time. And at this point, You have to remember the X-Men also were good guys. So Claremont and Byrne sort of gave another reason for the humans to hate the X-Men and mutants in general. And then they gave us a story with a concentration camp. So it more made this sort of struggle of mutant kind something we could see. And something that has, when Chris Claremont brought it back, there's a ton of interest. They've done Days of the Future Present, Past to the Future Days. They've changed the name as much as they could. That's all I can say about it. And I guess that's it. Thank you.